your 40?
Who, today?
Yeah.
Oh, there's no way I'd break 5 flat today, or at least not without blowing a tire. So, yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to go through all that.
What would, when teams ask you about Rashee,
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
What would I tell them?
Yeah, what do you tell them?
Yeah, well, I tell them the truth. I tell them, I've had the benefit of knowing him since we recruited him out of high school. I mean, I remember going to his basketball games at Richland Hills in high school. And so it's been fun seeing that progression for Rashee from when he was a freshman and then obviously coming back for his senior year. You're getting, in my opinion, and probably most people would agree, there's not a better receiver in this draft that can catch the ball contested like he can. I mean, they're not 50-50 balls. They're 80-20 or better with him. And, most of the people can only cover him by tackling him. And so I think that's a skill that you can't really teach that he's got. I think you saw at the combine, he's healthy. If you look at his first 3 games, specifically even the Maryland game against the top flight corner when he was explosive versus after he was hurt, yeah, he lost some explosion. You could see it on tape. Was still able to be tough and productive because he loves the ball. He loves to compete. That's what he loves to do. He had plenty of chances to shut it down, and nobody would have blamed him in the middle of the year, and he didn't because he loved to compete. He wanted to play with his teammates. So you get that. But I think if you looked at the combine, you can see his explosion's back. His vertical, his broad jump, his 40 time, watching him run routes today. So if you get a healthy Rashee, and I think that's what they all see. There's not a lot of guys over 200 pounds that have the explosion and the speed and then the playmaking ability, again, to catch a ball contested down the field. It's an art, and God's given it to him, and he's got it. And I think that's what they see. And then I think from a character standpoint, you're getting a guy who has never been in trouble on campus, never been in trouble with the law. He's never been in trouble in terms of academics. He was never on lists. He wasn't guys we were having to help him get to class and worry about those things. He was never in jeopardy of being ineligible. Just those things, he checks those boxes.
Where did you see the biggest jump in his game, maybe from when you saw him when he first came in to this season, and
Yep.
how much did what Coach Likens did with him really help speed that up?
I think the biggest jump I saw, if I'm just thinking when he was a freshman till now, was really twofold. One, his physique, his size. I mean, you can just tell he fell in love with the weight room because he was a little scrawny freshman, and now he's built, he's yoked, and he's a very physical player, and he looks physical. I think the second thing he improved was his explosion. He wasn't a 4.5, high 4.4 kid coming out of high school, he wasn't jumping 41. He bought into that, and a lot of that's in the weight room. And I think a lot of that transformation happened over the 4 years, but that did happen when Grizz came and, we got more into power cleaning squats and more explosive lifts. I think he really bought into that. I think in terms of with Rob, I think the maturity aspect. I think going from, when James was here and others, kind of being one of the guys to being the leading guy, to being the leader of the room, not just the best player, but the leader. I think he really grew there and from a maturity standpoint.
How big is that to have the guys ahead of you kind of show you how it's done, but then to have the ability to then take over once they're gone?
It's huge. It's the natural progression you hope, right? Like now we're in a position where you're hoping the Jordan Curleys or, the Jake Baileys, Moochies, whoever, kind of take that role this year. We don't know who it's going to be yet, but those guys have seen others do it. And there's a lot of different ways. Everybody leads in a different way, leads their own way. But really ever since, James did it from his junior to senior year, hopefully that's kind of becoming something that is a trend around here. And in a perfect world, you come in as a freshman, you learn from someone who's a veteran does it the right way. Because you can learn from people doing it the wrong way too. But hopefully that's a process that we keep duplicating.
I was going to say, what does it say about SMU to have this stretch of wide receivers?
We feel very fortunate. I don't know the data now. I know going into last season, I think we were second most receivers active in the league. So, I know scouts, when you have over 20, 30 scouts here, you have GMs here today, you have several receiver coaches here working them out. It's kind of become, though, when they come to our practices in the spring and fall, the scouts are almost like, well, who's the next receiver? And that's a good thing for us. You go all the way back to Emmanuel Sanders and the Cole Beasleys, and then what Cortland did, and James and Reggie and Danny, and you can kind of keep going on and on. I'm sure I missed somebody, but that's obviously helps us in recruiting to have that reputation, but it's been earned by a lot of those guys who came over the last 10, 12 years. Fortunately, I think, there's receivers for them to look at now, and so that's a big deal for us.
Do you find that recruiting at receivers just in general say, I need to come to SMU. And if they're coming after you more than you coming after them in some cases.
Yeah, in some cases, yeah. I mean, look, it's like everything else. You know, you have success throwing the football, which we've had, you know, here at SMU over the last 4 or 5 years. I've been blessed to have over the last, 4 or 5 years. So you kind of get consistency where people go, well, I know if I go there, I can catch 100 balls. Or I could, if I go to SMU and I do right, I'm not going to catch balls. I'll probably get to go to the NFL. So all those things, over time give you that reputation, which it definitely makes you more attractive. There are other positions where maybe we'd like to get to that level here, and we're not there yet. So, no, I think all that stuff adds to itself and builds on each other.
Do you notice anything with the guys that are now here and on the roster for next year when they see, a Rashee get this type of attention? Does that elevate what they put in a little bit more?
It does. Well, they almost kind of get to that, and Rashee felt that way this year, where there's like a little responsibility, like I'm the next one. Like I kind of have to hold it up for everybody else. Like, okay, so Cortland Sutton came here and did it right after Emmanuel and Cole did. Okay, well then after, James did it. Oh, then Danny did it. Oh, Reggie did. Now I got it. Like, because Rashee and I had that conversation last year. Like, I think one of the main reasons he chose to stay in this whole transfer world was not just the relationship, knowing we would throw the ball and all that, but knowing he had a chance to come back and it was his time to be the guy. And I think there was a little bit of we've gotten to the point where there's a little bit of responsibility, like it's my time to do what the others have done before me. And so hopefully, again, Jordan and some of those other guys that are older have that same maybe motivation this year.
Maybe a dumb question, and I know you guys have choice routes with your outside receivers, but was there a point maybe this season where it's like, hey, we're just going to scheme open, Rashee, if it's one-on-one, we're going to hit you? Or was it like, hey, Tanner, always in the back of your mind, if Rashee's out there, throw that jump?
It's not a dumb question. I mean, we do have choice routes. We have progression routes. The way our system is kind of designed is there's a concept and a progression to where you don't have to force feed the ball to someone, but within that progression, if you get the matchup you want, you can take it. We didn't really have to tell Tanner and Preston and those guys, like, if Rashee's one-on-one, throw it to him. I mean, if you think about the Memphis game, Kevin Jennings has to come in 3rd and 10, and he had Rashee one-on-one, and it wasn't real hard for him to figure out where to throw it. So quarterbacks usually get there, but yes, there are times where you'll say, hey, if it's like in basketball, hey, we get the matchup, let's isolate it. Yeah. If they're going to double and fine, go through the progression, but if they're going to give us that, let's take it every chance we get. Rashee's definitely that kind of guy, and I think that's why you saw him get so many targets. Because basically, and as the year went on, people would play him one-on-one less. So it's like when you do get that one-on-one, you better take it. And so I think that's probably why the ball went there when it did.
You have a bunch of guys out here that are all trying to get to the next level. Are there any that you feel like people aren't talking enough about, or maybe through your conversations with pro scouts, that you're seeing there's a little bit more draft buzz than there necessarily might be publicly?
It was good to have 11 guys. Anytime you have 11 guys that are going through it, and then even Kobe Bryant came back, who graduated from here, that's a good thing for our program. Hopefully you have double digits every year. Obviously everybody knows about Rashee. That's a lot of reason everybody's here. I think, I don't want to single too many out because a lot of them have opportunities, but I think Jalen Thomas is a guy that, to me, is either going to get drafted middle to late rounds. I hope. I think he should. If he signs a free agent deal, whatever. I mean, the athleticism, the versatility, I won't name any names, but standing out there with some of the scouts and GMs when he was going through his drills, they're like, wow, he's athletic. Well, you look at a guy, and I really don't know, talking to some of those guys, I've never had a guy start a game at all 5 positions in the season. Well, in the NFL, you get 7 or 8 guys on your roster. That's a big deal. Like there's a left tackle and then there's 7 other guys. And so if he can snap, if he can play center, play guard, play potentially right tackle, and he's that athletic, he's got the size, he's got the experience, he's got the games. And I think what Jalen did more than anything this year, I think was answer all the questions about his toughness. He played tough, he played physical, he was more of a finisher. He got injured in fall camp, pushed through it. He got injured late in the year, finished the season before he had his surgery. So hopefully he answered those questions. I think a guy like Isaac Slade tested really well today. His vertical is 40, his broad were all really, really good. So hopefully he improved it today like a lot of other guys. And I think we got a lot of guys that'll get chances maybe to get in a camp, and that's really all you can ask for, to prove yourself.
What do you say about, you got a kid like Ben Redding who might not be 100%, that he's out here?
I was kind of, so I talked to Ben on Sunday, and that's when I first knew he was even going to be able to go through it. Because, his ankle injury was, first of all, it was in November. It's not too long ago, and it was pretty extensive, the surgery and the break. And so for him to be able to come out and run the 40 and run the routes and do the things he did, You know, I think that shows you who Ben is. You know, his whole career, he just was tough, maybe overachieved at times. And, you know, I think if he gets an opportunity, that's what people are going to see in a camp. You know,
He's doing some snaps.
some deep snapping.
Deep snapper. That's
Yeah,
kind of like
like
what his
he's-
future might be.
Yeah, I think you got guys like Ben Redding, you got guys like Jimmy Phillips, even only 1 year here, but Nick Roberts. They played a lot of football. Gary Wiley. So the question is, if they get a chance in a camp, do they have a chance to make not only the roster, but make the practice squad? And those guys are going to get those opportunities. You look at a Trevor Denbo a year ago. He was a guy that if you came out here and watched, you know, other than maybe looking good with his shirt off, he probably wasn't going to be at the top of anybody's list, but the Colts gave him a chance. He goes in the preseason, leads the whole NFL in tackles on special teams, and makes a 53-man roster. So those guys will have those opportunities.
Generally, what is the value of a pro day, and especially the stuff that's not tested? I mean, just in general, to have these events, what's the value?
The stuff that's not testing,
Both the testing and also not the testing.
yeah, I think the value for the guys going through the pro day and the scouts and the GMs and the coaches is they get to come meet with them. Like, you know, Rashee was able to go to dinner with one of the coaches last night, and then today. So it's just seeing people in person. You know, you may have questions about a person, then you talk to them 10 minutes and face to face, and now you get a different feel one way or the other. So I think that's the benefit. Just, you know, I remember 1 year we had, I think Jason Garrett, when he was the head coach of the Cowboys, out here running the receiver drills for Cortland Sutton. Like, when you have those kind of interactions, it's an opportunity for those guys. For us, it's great to just have these people on our campus, obviously have the exposure for our guys, but a lot of our players were out here watching that are on our team. And that's where they probably aspire to be. So for them to be able to watch their former teammates going through it, and now it gives them a little extra motivation. Like, this is where I want to be. This is what it looks like. And look at all these guys here. I think it's a win-win for everybody.